Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. In today's episode, we're going to be doing one of my favorite tarts, which is called la Galette des Rois, and it is a specialty of, well, I'll say Belgium, but also a lot of Franco-speaking countries. And this Galette des Rois is a really special cake because it's a tart that we make during the Epiphany, which happens at the beginning of the year, and the Epiphany is usually celebrated by Christian countries, and it is to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, and that's why we call it la Galette des Rois, which is the tart of the kings. And it's basically the three kings that come to visit Jesus Christ when he is born. And yes, this is the traditional cake that we do during that time, and it's a super duper simple recipe that only really takes a few ingredients, a little bit of preparation, and can probably be done in pretty much maybe 1 hour, including the baking, which is kinda cool. So without any further ado, let's start cooking. The ingredients that are needed in order to make this tart are 1 2/3 cups almond flour, a half a cup of sugar, 1/3 cup room temperature butter, 4 eggs. Out of these 4 eggs, 2 are going to be whole eggs, then 1 egg yolk, and also 1 egg yolk to brush on top of the pastry. Apart from that, we're also going to need a couple of drops of almond extract, 2 pastry sheets, and all the ingredients just need to be blended and mixed, and that's about it. So now that we know all of these ingredients, well, let's start mixing them in a bowl. And I like to use just a simple bowl like this, and as you're gonna see, it's super duper simple. In a bowl, add 1 2/3 cups of almond flour followed by half a cup of sugar. Once that is done, take 2 eggs and add them to the bowl complete with the egg yolk and the white of the egg. Then take a 3rd egg and separate the egg yolk from the white. I like to use a separate container to drop the egg white in. Once separated, add the egg yolk to the bowl. Now that the main ingredients are in the bowl, take a plate and cut half a cup of room temperature butter into little cubes. Once cut into cubes, add them to the mix in the bowl, followed by a couple of drops of almond extract. Now that all the ingredients are in the bowl, the next step is to use an electric blender, and we're going to blend all of these ingredients. And it really doesn't take too long, just a few seconds, and it's going to be blended, so let's do it. As mentioned, blending the ingredients really doesn't take long, probably about 20 to 30 seconds at most. You'll know when it's blended enough once you see that there aren't any chunks in the paste, that the mix has a nice smooth consistency. Once the ingredients are fully mixed, take a glass baking pan and cut a piece of parchment paper in a circular shape that you can place on the bottom of the pan. This will help the tart not to stick after baking. Next, start spreading the bottom layer of the puff pastry. Most likely the pastry will be square shaped and will need a bit of help in order to fit the pan properly. I like to use scissors to cut the extra dough and then to use those extra cut pieces to make up for the empty spaces in the pan. The bottom layer of the dough should fill in the bottom of the pan fully. It is important because it is the bottom half shape of the tart, and without it, the tart would literally fall to pieces. Once the bottom layer of the puff pastry is completely laid out, take a fork and make a bunch of little holes throughout the bottom of the dough. Now take the bowl with the almond flour and pour it evenly throughout the whole glass pan, making sure that the concoction takes up the whole bottom of the pan. Now that we have the bottom layer of this tart fully done, there is an extra step to this recipe which is fully optional, but traditionally, at least in Belgium and a lot of French-speaking parts of the world, in the tart we usually add 1 almond, or maybe something that's like a little ceramic toy, but I like to use an almond. It's just really easy to cook. And we place it inside this tart, and the fun part about this thing is that whoever finds the almond, well, is considered the king for the day. And for the tradition to be complete, we even have a paper crown that indicates that you are the king for the day. So even though it is optional, I am Belgian and it does remind me of my childhood, and I think it's kind of fun to have somebody become the king. So I'm going to place this almond in the pastry. Now that the almond is placed inside the mix, the next step is to add the top layer of the puff pastry. Much in the same way as the bottom layer, it's not going to have the perfect shape since the pastry usually comes as a rectangle. So take a pair of scissors and cut the extra dough. Once everything is cut properly, the next step is to take a knife and to create a shape for the top layer. Creating the shape doesn't make the tart taste better, but it does make it prettier. A simple design that I like is to draw some inverted S shapes going down the middle of the pastry. Finally, in order to give it even more of an old traditional tart shape, I like to use a fork by pressing it all around the edge of the top puff pastry. This type of design is extremely simple and makes the tart look straight out of a bakery. As a final step, in order to give the tart a golden shade, take a yellow of egg and dab it on a paper towel, then spread the yellow of the egg thoroughly on the top layer of the puff pastry. This tart isn't even baked yet and it already looks sublime. Didn't I tell you guys that it was super duper simple to mix all the ingredients and to put on this puff pastry? I will say that maybe making the shape might be the hardest part, but also that is kind of simple. So now that we've done the shape, the tart is pretty much ready to be baked, and all we need to do is put it in the oven for about 30 to 45 minutes depending on your oven, and we'll be done. Before putting the tart in the oven, be sure to preheat it at 395 degrees Fahrenheit. Once in the oven, the tart really does cook quickly. As I mentioned, it takes about 30 to 45 minutes to bake. The best telltale sign that the tart is fully cooked is to look at the golden layer on top of the pastry, and secondly, I like to use the knife method where I poke a small hole throughout the top layer of the pastry and check if the knife comes out fully dry. If it does, then the tart is 100% cooked and ready to take out of the oven. Once out of the oven, let it rest for 20 to 30 minutes and then take it out of the glass tray by using a knife to separate the sides of the pastry that might be stuck on the glass container, and then placing a plate on top of the tart and reversing it. Once upside down, use another plate and flip it one more time, and that's about it. You made a perfect Galette des Rois. Wow, didn't this tart come out beautiful? It's just so wonderful. It looks exactly like in the bakery, and as you can tell, I added the little crown on top of the tart. This is the way that they present it in bakeries, and yeah, this really completes it. But yeah, I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching me make this Galette des Rois, and I'm sure that you're gonna enjoy eating it too. But if you did enjoy this recipe, or if you did enjoy actually eating it, well, please be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment too. Let me know how your tart came out, and let me know about maybe future recipes that I should do. I'm always open to hearing suggestions. But with that being said, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.